All right. Welcome back, everybody. We are thrilled and excited to announce our next guest today. Albert, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks
Yeah,
so much
thank
for
you.
joining the List It podcast. Albert's based in Northern California. He's in the beautiful weather, loving spring out there in Northern California today. We might hear some birds chirping in the background
Yeah,
today.
there's a lot of them.
Love all of those things. So Albert, listen, you've toured the country, you've been on stage, you've trained real estate agents all over the
Yeah,
US. I know you've been a Landvoice user. I mean, back in what, 1998, you started using Landvoice
yeah,
and some
back
of
in
the seller data.
1998. Yep, doing
So,
for
yeah,
sale by
listen,
owner.
yeah, for sell by owners in 98, huge thing. I mean, that wasn't even Landvoice at the time. I think it was Warnock by owner at the time. So there's
Yeah,
so many historical stories back then as well. But again, thrilled to have you on. I know
thank
you've,
you.
like I said, toured the country, been on stage, trained agents. Not only that, you've not been just a coach and a trainer, but you've been in the weeds, man. I mean, I remember talking to you a little bit about 2008 and the foreclosure times. You listed 500 REOs back in those days and
I
listed and
did.
sold homes. You've seen it all. You've done it all. You're really a guy that we want to talk a little bit today about just consistency in our business, using scripts. But we also have another topic we want to talk a little bit about today, and that's adapting to today's market and industry and what we're doing. Before we do all that, though, give our audience just a quick 90-second clip of a little bit more of who you are and what you've been doing, what you've been up to.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Sean. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm excited about doing this, and I love Landvoice. I've been with you guys for a long time. I've been a real estate sales guy. Going to celebrate my 25 years, and I
Amazing.
flunked a real estate exam 5 times. I had to hire a tutor to get that real estate exam passed. Been married 30 years this year, and I have three
Congrats.
beautiful kids. I got a 25-year-old, I got an 18-year-old, and I have a 16-year-old. And I just love this industry. I've written 3 books: Sell Your House Fast for the Right Price, Home Buyer's Mastery, and my favorite one is the Passion Punch to Success. And we can dive into a little bit about that. But it's about living life with passion. Since we only have one shot at this life, I think a lot of people are just screwing it up. And so I'm excited to share that. And I just love what I do. I just love servicing clients, giving extraordinary service, selling a house to somebody in their early 20s, and they call me up saying, "Hey, Albert, I'm pregnant. We got to get out of here." And I help them sell and help them buy another house. And then they call me up and say, "Hey, listen, Albert, we're having a third child. Can you come and help me and sell this house and buy another one?" That's an incredible journey. And that's what I love so much about this business. So
Repeat
that's me in the back.
business. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I appreciate that introduction. 30 years. Congratulations. Three
Thank
beautiful
you.
kids. That it's just
Thank you.
amazing.
Yeah, thank
And you
you.
talk about that repeat business that comes to us in our industry, right? That's really something really cool. We've got a mutual friend, you and I, Albert. Chris Stewart talks a lot about the loyalty gap and
Yeah,
how 84, 85% of the time, typically that homeowner that has another kid and has to move away,
yeah,
typically they're using a different agent 85% of the time. And really, the key to our industry is building strong, deep relationships so that then when they do have another child, they do call you a second and a third and a fourth time
yeah.
to continue to buy and sell more properties. It's really one of the key pieces to our industry in bringing business
Yeah.
back to us
Yeah,
consistently, right?
I'm glad you brought that up. In my business for the last 25 years, I think you're going to be very fascinated about what I'm about to tell you. I just don't advertise. So I made it a top 1.5% about 8 times here in the US. And I did that without not one dime of advertising. And I used a telephone to go out and call my sphere of influence, calling certain expired for sale by owners, given extraordinary service. I mean, when I say extraordinary, I mean extraordinary. So when they're at a barbecue, my clients, they can't wait to run over and say, "Hey, you want to buy a house? You got to call Albert." To get them to do that, you got to be you got to give that extraordinary service and experience. What are they saying when you're not around? What kind of experience did you leave? So that's what I'm all about. Is I'm a servant, and I'm here to ask great questions and figure out what people's goals are, and I serve it on a silver platter.
So good. I know you're passionate about our industry and about
Yeah,
helping agents thrive the way you have in your business and your industry. A lot
yeah,
of what we wanted to talk about today, we're going to get right into it, is just about adapting, dying, or shifting. There's a
yeah,
lot of that happening in our industry, not only today, but 5, 10, even 30 years ago. It's always consistently, we've got to find ways to adapt,
Yeah.
shift, or
Yeah.
die in our business. Talk us through that a little bit. Let's get into
You
it.
know, people always ask me over the years, hey, Albert, when's a good time to get into real estate? There is no good time. Just do it, because every market's going to have its challenges, right? I mean, we have a challenge now. We had a challenge, 8 months ago. We had a challenge 3 years ago. We had a challenge when 9/11 hit. We had a challenge in '07. Just get into it, commit to it, come up with an easy plan, have a burning desire to succeed, and go for it. So there's never a good time. Just get in the business. I will tell you, though, right now is an exciting time. I hate to say this, but I feel bad. But the bottom line is we got too many real estate agents in our space. And transactions are down. So it's going to be the survival of the fittest. You got to hone in on your skills. You got to hone in on your mindset. So I always like to talk about adapt or die. And if you like, Sean, I can share my journey with you when I started, in a nutshell, going back 25 years and kind of where I'm at now.
I think it's important, Albert, because what we find is you've been consistent in your business, but more importantly, you found 2 or 3 pillars of income that you've adapted to and really kind of held on to that have helped you grow your business the right way. So let's go through the journey. Let's see if that can help a few agents out there.
Here's what I want to tell you. There's nothing wrong with having an ego. I have an ego. We all need to have an ego, because that's what motivates us. Unfortunately, in our industry, the ego gets in the way of a lot of things. And I'll share what I mean by that. So I got my real estate license 24 years ago, almost coming up on 25 years. And before I was licensed, I went to a couple of my mentors and I said, hey, listen, how do I get business? I'm 29 years old. I don't know anybody. Really, everybody my age is not buying homes. So
tiny database. What do we do, right?
Yeah. And so my mentor said, listen, pick up the phone. I'm like, to do what? Who am I calling? And so he told me to go to these couple of events that really inspired me before I was licensed. And I was just very coachable. I was eager to learn. I respected the guys that were mentoring me. And I said, okay, what do I do? And how do I do it? So I just got on the phone. I said, where do I get the numbers? And that's where I found you. Warnex by owner. And to be very frank with you, I spent my time there. My first year in business, I called a lot for sale by owners and did a lot of listings my first year in business. I think I did 28, 29 deals in my first year in business. Can you believe that? Where
That's
the average real estate agent in the U.S. does less than 1.5 to 2 homes a year.
Yeah.
So
28 in your first year, is that right?
What's that?
28 in your first year, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was for sale by owners. It was door knocking. It's when I got a listing from a for sale by owner, I was able to work the open house, right? It grew from there, right? So when I first started, I hammered the for sale by owners. I hammered expired. I hammered just listed, just sold. You know what's cool about all this? This is all free. I mean, I never chose to open up a farm and commit to it. With advertising costs today, it's super expensive. Back then, it was expensive as well. But I didn't have time to wait to put together my brand and wait 8 to 10 months for my brand to kick in. I was married. I had a mortgage payment. I needed to create an income. Does that make sense?
No
So the phones were predictable for me. So I got on the phone called Expires, sell by owners, just listed, just sold. I grabbed onto some scripts. You guys have incredible scripts. There's many different coaching organizations that have incredible scripts. Just grab a script that you're comfortable with, internalize that. I used to role play a lot with a lot of agents in the office, just to sharpen up my, my axe. So I did that for like 2 or 3 years, 4 years. I did very well just by the phones. And so we can go over a little bit of that later. But then from there, I started hammering the phones. I knew back in '07 or end of '06, there was a lot of notes going delinquent. And so I heard about this foreclosure. I didn't even know what a foreclosure was, to be very frank with you. They used to call them REOs. I didn't even know what that stood for. REOs. It's just a fancy word of being a foreclosure. So all I knew at that time that something was going to happen. Because of the loans that were going bad and the greed that the banks had and lending money for free. And you could be a gardener and go buy 20 homes and state your income and blah, blah, blah. So we had that to '07 crash. You're very familiar with it, right? So I hammered the phones. I called large banks and I ended up interviewing with one of the largest banks and became an REO agent direct, not outsourced. I was direct to the bank. And then that led to 8 years of selling foreclosures, doing cash for keys, doing pre-marketing and paying for out of pocket for all the repairs and putting the PG&E in my name. I had probably at any one time, I had about 100 PG&E bills in my name. Can you believe it? I had one gal that just worked my reimbursements. So I shifted during that time in '07 where all these agents had a lot of big egos. They didn't feel like they needed to sell REOs or short sales. I was ahead of the game. I was the very first agent here in Northern California to get an REO account with one of the largest banks. So while they were asleep at the wheel, I got to the party when the party started. In about a year to 2 years, I became very popular. All the real estate agents wanted to know, how in the world do I do what I do? Can you get me in? At that point, the party's already started. Bye, you're too late. So I didn't do any short sales. I knew the 07, 08, 09, there was a lot of short sales during that time. I didn't spend any time because I was super busy just with REOs. So from the REO world, that ended in 2013. I got a call from one of the head guys at the large bank and said, Albert, you're an amazing guy. Thank you for all you've done, but you're not getting any more REOs. I said, oh my God, why not? He said, because we're going to bundle all these things up and we're going to sell them out to hedge funds. We can no longer do this anymore. It's costing us too much money. There's too much liability. So in 2013, you can just imagine how spoiled I was because there was no emotion. It was like selling stock on the stock market. I get the asset. I didn't have to deal with the emotional seller like, hey, Albert, I just spent a lot of money on my toilets. I think my home's worth $100,000 more. It's like, I don't have to deal with that. I just dealt with the bank, the BPO, the appraised values, suggest my list price, and I listed it. Can you imagine doing that about 500 times? Pretty spoiled, right?
500 homes, right? You pivot, you make this huge change in 07, 08,
Yeah.
you pivot to REOs, 500 homes later, and
Yeah.
then 2013 happens, and it's like,
Yeah,
whoa.
so I had to do a lot of soul searching.
Yeah.
A lot of soul searching, like, what do I want to do next? And so I talked to a lot of the people I have a lot of respect for, a lot of mentors, and they encouraged me to get into the luxury market. So I had to make a shift and become luxury. What kind of car am I driving? What am I reading? Who am I hanging out with? So for the next, from 2013 to about 2019 or so, I just focused on the luxury market. And I ended up selling larger ticket homes. So I shifted into the luxury market, is basically what I did for a long period of time. Actually, to the point of February 2022, when the Feds decided to increase the interest rates at an all-time record, 15 times in less than 15 months.
We're all feeling that one. Yep.
Right. So I knew March and April 2022, I had to make another shift. And so the shift was, continuing to outreach and be knowledgeable what's going on, reach out to all my past clients, love them up, educate them about what does this mean about high interest rates, what does this mean to their value of their home. So I spent a lot of time calling a lot of my past clients in that space. But what I found doing that, I was really locked up with a lot of my clients not wanting to do anything. So that's when I had an aha moment that I needed to do something, because March and April, everybody was kind of like on a pause. And quite frankly, they're still
sitting on the sideline.
Yeah. And I think a lot of them are still out of pause, unfortunately, because of these high interest rates. And a lot of my clients are in a 2.5% interest rate, 3.25 or 2.2. And it doesn't make sense for them to sell at this point. So I made a shift to start focusing on building relationships on the commercial side. So I built a commercial team, believe it or not. And I found an incredible person that has these off-market commercial assets. And I'm building a team around her. And she's got contracts in over 70 off-market assets. So that's kind of what I'm shifting to right now. As long as I still do my residential, I'm segueing into the commercial. So that's what I'm doing when I'm talking about adapting and shifting.
Albert, so there's this 25-year window you just give us a glance in. And what I see in your business, there's another great coach in your space and in our space. He always says, niches get riches. And I feel like that's what happened to you, right? You get into the business. We don't have a very big database. So we start calling, door knocking, sending mailers to FSBOs and expireds. And you go out there and crush it with 28 deals in 1 year, right? Then you make this pivot to REO, sell 500 homes for what? Like 5, 6 years.
No, it's about almost 9. I was spoiled for 9 years.
Oh my gosh, just this amazing ride of REOs, right? And then they like dry up out of thin air. There's none in
None.
2013. Inventory drops and you jump into luxury and crush it there.
Yeah.
But niches really do get riches. I mean, whatever we do, if we can just focus on it and put our energy there, we can be successful, whether it's luxury, REOs, FSBOs, expireds, we can make that happen. And obviously we're passionate at Landvoice about the FSBOs and the expireds, and
Yeah.
you're just listed, you're just sold, and whether you call it or door knock it or email it or mail it, like we just want to find a way to build relationships and help homeowners with the most important investment they've ever made,
Yeah.
right?
So this last year and a half, I stepped up with you guys at Landvoice a lot because I was so busy with the luxury and the REOs. But I'm diving in because you have an incredible database, the pre-foreclosures, giving you some hints on potential sellers not making payments. I came up with a rubber stamp idea where I stamp the handwritten note and I send it out to your data, which has been incredible. I just got a listing on that. And then just hammering the expireds and for sale by owners. So we don't see that many expireds in my market because everything is selling right now because the inventory is so low. We don't see that many for sale by owners right now. So the inventory is a little tight in those buckets. But I'm a firm believer of just using the phone. It's free. I'm just super comfortable with the phone. And your company adds this incredible amount of data. They give it to you on a silver platter every morning in an email. I mean, it's crazy.
These are sellers. There's no reason to spend tens of thousands of dollars every month and market your business when you really just need to get in front of the right sellers, right?
Exactly. It's all about now you got to find the need sellers because a lot of the whys they're not going to want to do anything. In the whys, you need to find the needs. Unfortunately, death, divorce, move out of state, lost their job. There's got to be something driving that sell, and it always comes down to whatever their need is of why they want to sell. So I have a lot of people that are wise, but they don't want to do anything. So right now, it's important to focus on listings because the market this year, I believe, we're going to have tight inventory all this year. And if these interest rates go down to 6% or high fives, I'm just telling you, in Northern California, I'm making offers on properties right now, and I'm seeing offers from 10 to 20 offers right now at the current interest rates, and homes that are going up 30% what they were 6 months ago. So in my area, homes sold for $1,100,000 8 months ago. That house today, guess what it sold for? $1,650,000. $500,000 in 7 months.
And imagine how hot it's going to be if rates drop by a point or a point and a half.
Even a quarter or a 0.5%, there's going to be more demand hitting the market, and we're not going to have the supply. We're just not. I don't see us having a supply for a very long time. I'm hoping I'm wrong.
That the market has bottomed out, but as you talk to some investment bankers, some large multi-billion-dollar companies, they're saying watch out for a bottom because as soon as rates drop, prices were going to increase for us again, aren't they?
And I'm telling you, the prices over here in Northern California are increasing so much, it's not even funny. It's actually very concerning and scary. So right now, what agents should be focusing on right now is open houses, door knocking, looking for sellers. That's what they need to be focused on. That's great. Go find a buyer, but it's easy to find a buyer, especially now. A lot of the buyers are okay with the interest rates because it's taken this long to say, okay, I better jump in. They sacrificed. They either lived with their parents or lived with somebody. They're like, you know what? These rates aren't coming down, man. We've been living over here for a year. We better start buying. I'm okay, and hopefully the rates will drop. And so anyway, I'm just focused on listings right now. I'm focused on building my commercial business and going after some off-market commercial assets and matchmaking buyers and sellers. And so I have the inventory to do it through my gal that I partnered with.
Well, I think you've hit on all the kind of the key things that are happening in our market today. One is we've got high interest rates with a lot of people sitting on the sidelines. Yep. Two, we know that there's some really big announcements with NAR last week. Yes. Yep. And the name of the game in our industry right now is focusing on the listings. So you just nailed it. It's open houses, and then it's the listings.
It's
and
door knocking.
Yep.
Right now, there's so many homes selling 20 to 30% higher than they were 6 months ago. That's a great way, to go out and door knock and, and see if they want to sell. And even at the unrealistic price they want to sell at, they're probably going to get it. But at the end of the day, if I had to look at my 25-year career, if I could sum it all up, it comes down to being consistent. It's just finding a window where you're comfortable with throughout the day. Because, there's a lot of people that have, different schedules. I just happen to work out in the morning. I use 1 or 2 hours a day in phone prospecting. That works for me in the morning. Some people can't do that. So my point is, find a window of an hour, 2 hours of just simple phone prospecting. It could be in the morning, it could be in the afternoon, or it could be in the evening. It depends on who you're calling. If you're calling an expired, you should call them first thing in the morning the next day, because they will list if they're motivated within 48 hours. If you call for sale by owner, call them anytime, any place. They're like Wild Wild West. They got their phone ready to go. So for sale by owners or anytime, any place, they're the easiest to get on the phone, but most difficult to convert. So I use a lot of reverse psychology when I call for sale by owners. And then just listed, just sold typically are the best time to call, or on the weekends, because that's when people are home. And I love your platform because you give cell phones. You scrub the list, and you have a higher percentage of contacting somebody when you're making these calls through a just listed or just sold. So it all depends on who you're calling. Your sphere of influence, you can send them a beautiful text, tell them you're thinking about them, or just give them a call. There's no rush to call those people. So it all depends on who you're calling, but just do it consistently. That's all I can say. And that's the challenge, and having an accountability partner, and that you need to check in. I have an accountability partner for my prospecting. I have an accountability partner for my workouts. So it's important to have accountability partners in this business.
Gosh, you just nailed both of those things. And maybe those are our final thoughts for today. But, we've known you at Landvoice for a long, long time, Albert. And the one thing we can say about Albert Garibaldi is that he's Mr. Consistency. You're Mr. Consistency in the gym. You're consistent with your business. And that's really what it takes in our business. So many of us, we get into the real estate game and we want to kind of put our entrepreneur hats on, right, Albert? And the problem with that is we've got to really, and I heard this in another training that I've attended many times, but we've got to move our business from entrepreneurial to purposeful. And when we do that, and when we get consistent, when we say from 8 to 9 a.m., I'm going to door knock, or from 9 to 10 p.m., I'm going to send out my letters, or I'm going to do my marketing, or right. But we actually get really purposeful about our business or about our health, where you're going to the gym every day at a certain time every morning.
Yeah.
I just see so many key indicators in your life and in your success has come from being consistent.
It is. And here's my book, Passion Punch to Success. And I dedicated this book, of course, to my 3 kids. We all have challenges, right? I have learning disabilities. My kids have challenges. So I wanted to write this book and to dedicate to my kids. But what inspired me, besides my kids, was the real estate industry, the real estate agents and the mortgage people, because I saw how confused they were as new agents or walking around, just not having the right support and right coaching. So I really wanted to go out and crush it. That's what motivated me to stay so consistent. And this book was born. And Passion Punch is an acronym. Punches represents P, and the punch is patience. U is unstoppable. N is no excuses. C is courage, and H is happiness. So when you live life with passion, the punch shows up. See, no matter what you do in life, if you're not passionate, the P won't show up. See, I'm passionate about prospecting and meeting people and giving extraordinary service. And I can't afford them to meet another agent because nobody's good as me. Okay. I'm going to get them the most money. I'm going to have the courage to tell them the truth. That requires a lot of patience. So when you're passionate, you have a lot of patience. You have patience in your need for your business. You need patience for your health and fitness. I'm 55 and my waistline is almost still 32, 33 years waistline. I mean, how do I do that? Because I train 6 days a week. Okay. And it takes patience, and, you can't get fit overnight. You got to be consistent. And then patience has to do with relationships. I've been married 30 years, been with my wife 32 years. And because I'm passionate about my relationship, the P shows up for patience. And then U is unstoppable. See, when you're passionate about something, when I go on a presentation, I tell that person how passionate I am, you become unstoppable. When you wear the passion on your sleeve and yell it off the rooftops, you become unstoppable. Believe me, people respect people that love what they do. And then N is no excuses. There is no excuse. I got to go kick some butt. I got to make some phone calls. I have goals. There's no excuse. And then C is courage, because it takes courage to get on the phone and call. A lot of people are not comfortable with calling. But when you're passionate, you have the courage to do that. Listen, being on stage and speaking with people, that creates, you need a lot of courage. But because I'm so passionate about what I'm saying, I'm on stage. Does that make sense? In front of 100 people, 1,000 people. Wow, if you would have knocked on my shoulder in high school and said, hey, Albert, with learning disabilities, barely passed high school, and my grandmother did all my reports for me so I can play ball, and you said to me, one day you're going to be in front of 1,000 people speaking, I think you're crazy. But because I'm passionate about this industry and passionate about getting my message out, it's given me the courage to go get uncomfortable. And of course, H is happiness. Being truly happy. And it doesn't mean driving a Rolls Royce or a Lamborghini. It's what makes you happy. It's the true happiness. And that's what the Passion Punch represents. And that's the message I want to give to your group, is just figure out what your passion is. And if it's not real estate, that's okay. Because then figure out what your passion is, and then use real estate as the vehicle to live your passion. Like, is it traveling? Is it cars? That all costs money. Well, guess what? Real estate is an incredible career where you can go out and make a lot of income, and then that income you can go live your life with that you love to be passionate about. So that's the Passion Punch of success.
Albert, I love the acronym. I love the story. Appreciate you sharing your story with us today. It means a lot to us. Appreciate you being a friend of the program as well. Couple things. I know you've been working with our team. You've got a little discount for our audience. If everybody goes to landvoice.com/Albert, there's a discount there. Anyone that's wanting to get started with FSBOs, expireds, the just listed, the just sold, the pre-foreclosures. My recommendation is let's get consistent in our business, just like Albert has in his. Let's schedule time to prospect or door knock or work those open houses. But every day this week, it should be at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. You're doing something specifically to get more listings this week. And if you'll do that and do it consistent, and I know, Albert, again, I know you're consistent in the gym too. It's 5:30 a.m. You're there every day. So
I am. And you know what? And why that's important is you guys, everybody has to understand we all are in a state all the time. And sometimes you get in that funk, and sometimes your mind plays games with you. So it's important to stay healthy and fit so you can get in the right state. And it's cool if you're in the funk, the cool thing about state is you can switch it quickly. And so for me, my workout, sometimes I'm in the funk, right? I get a listing that cancels, or the listing didn't hire me, or the seller decided to go with somebody else, or my offer was rejected, or whatever that is, could put you in the funk. So working out and getting that heart rate up and shifting your state, listening to some great music, listening to some affirmations or say affirmations, it's really important. It's right here, man. I'm telling you. And for me, you got to be strong. So when something comes at you that's not perfect or it throws you off, let it bounce off. Move on. So I'm very good at that. I don't dwell in stuff. I just move on. And a lot of people, when it hits them, they stick with it, and it ruins their whole day, and it gets them in the wrong state. And so you just got to you got to work really hard on your mindset, and don't let all the small stuff bug you. Claim everything perfect, because if you dwell in things, it'll ruin your day.
Yep, it's so good, Albert. Listen, again, we appreciate your time today. It's 30 minutes or less. We're in and out. We hope to see everybody at the next show. Albert, you're a champ for us. We appreciate you, and we'll look forward to talking to everybody soon.
Awesome. Passion Punch rule.
Thanks, Albert.